I was at a restaurant the other day, just a nice little casual spot, nothing fancy, and I saw something that honestly made me put my fork down. I actually stopped eating.
Oh, yeah?
There was a family at the next table. The son must have been, I don't know, 20, maybe 21. He was wearing a university sweatshirt, looked like a fully grown man.
Okay, you've set the scene. A typical college student.
Right. And his mom was reaching over, literally cutting his steak for him.
No.
Yes. And she wasn't just cutting it, she was like arranging the bites. And he was just sitting there, scrolling on his phone, totally passive, like this was the most normal thing in the
Oh,
world.
wow. The classic cutting the cord metaphor, but literal. And with steak knives.
Exactly. And it immediately reminded me of those intense movie montages. You know, the ones like in Whiplash where the kid is practicing an instrument for 6 hours a day while the parent stands over them with a stopwatch?
Right, screaming about getting into a conservatory.
It just got me thinking about the modern parenting landscape. It feels like we've split into these two extremes. Either you're hovering over them like a drone, or you're pushing them like a drill sergeant.
It's a high-stakes game these days.
Yeah.
And usually, whether it's the steak cutter or the drill sergeant, it comes from a place of deep love. I don't think we can forget that.
Right, absolutely. No one does that because they hate their kid. They do it because they love them too much, maybe. But that is exactly what we're digging into today.
It is.
Welcome to the Deep Dive Lab. I've got a massive stack of research papers here. We're talking meta-analyses, longitudinal studies, the heavy hitters, and we are going to decode what actually happens to the humans raised by these parents.
It's going to be an eye-opener. We have some really comprehensive data on the table today. We're looking at a massive 2025 meta-analysis by Hu and colleagues and some groundbreaking work by Su Yeong Kim.
And just so everyone is on the same page, meta-analysis sounds like something from a Marvel movie, but it's actually a specific scientific term, right?
Yeah, it is. Think of a meta-analysis as a study of studies. Instead of just looking at one group of 50 people, researchers take the data from dozens or even hundreds of previous studies and crunch it all together.
So it gives you a much bigger picture.
A huge bird's-eye view of what's really true across the board.
So it's like the Rotten Tomatoes score of science. It aggregates everything.
If it is a surprisingly accurate analogy, yes.
Perfect. So our mission is simple. We are looking at two specific characters today, the helicopter parent and the tiger mom.
We all know the stereotypes.
You do. We assume that hovering keeps kids safe and that the tiger method gets them into Harvard.
That is the assumption. That's the cultural script we've been handed. But the data tells a very different and honestly a pretty startling story.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the helicopter parent. We throw this term around a lot, but scientifically, what are we actually talking about here?
There is a clinical definition in the research, specifically from Seagren and colleagues. This is officially termed overparenting.
Overparenting.
And it's crucial to distinguish this from just being a responsive, caring parent. The definition hinges on one specific phrase: developmentally inappropriate involvement.
Developmentally inappropriate. That sounds a bit clinical. Break that down for us.
Think of it this way. Imagine a student pilot. They've done the simulator, they know the controls, and they are perfectly capable of flying the plane. But the flight instructor, the parent, is sitting right next to them, absolutely terrified.
Okay.
They keep grabbing the yoke, making every turn, adjusting the altitude.
So the plane lands safely, nobody crashes.
The plane lands safely, yes. But the student never actually flew it.
And the student probably thinks, I guess I can't fly this thing without help.
Exactly. And the nuance here, and this is what makes it so tricky to spot sometimes, is that it combines high warmth with high intrusiveness. It's not about being mean.
It's about being too involved.
Yes. In domains that the child or the young adult should be handling independently. It's doing their laundry when they are 24. It's emailing their professor about a grade.
So it looks like help. It feels like love. But let's look at the scoreboard. What does the data say happens to these kids when they grow up?
Well, brace yourself, because there's a bit of an ouch statistic here. When we look at that 2022 review in Frontiers in Psychology and the 2025 meta-analysis, the findings are robust.
Okay, lay it on us.
There is a consistent positive association between helicopter parenting and anxiety and depression in adult children.
Wait, hold on. The parenting style that is designed to protect them from stress is actually linked to more anxiety.
Precisely. It's the paradox of protection.
Why? I mean, if my mom is handling my bills, shouldn't I be less stressed?
You might be in the immediate moment, sure.
Mm.
But the mechanism here essentially comes down to something called self-efficacy.
Okay, what is self-efficacy?
It's basically your belief in your own ability to handle a situation. It's that internal voice that says, I can fix this.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it only gets stronger with resistance. It only gets stronger when you lift something heavy.
I see where you're going if someone else is lifting the weights for you.
You atrophy. When a parent solves every problem, from the roommate dispute to the forgotten homework, the child never gets the evidence that they are capable of solving it themselves.
So they have what researchers call low environmental mastery.
Right. So let's take a relatable scenario. Your kid has a conflict with a roommate freshman year. The helicopter response is, I'll call the RA, I'll call the housing office.
Problem solved. Kid is happy.
Short term, yes. But the autonomy supportive response is, wow, that sounds really tough. How do you think you should handle that?
One solves a problem but creates a long-term deficit. The other risks a messy moment, but it builds the skill.
Exactly. And because they lack that skill, when they hit a bump in adulthood, and they will hit bumps, their anxiety spikes because they literally don't believe they have the tools to cope.
That makes total sense. Now, digging through the notes on the You et al. Study, I saw something that I did not expect at all. A connection to technology and addiction.
Yes, this was a fascinating twist. The research, which looked at populations in the US and China, found that strong helicopter parenting is linked to higher risks of game and social media addiction.
That seems almost counterintuitive. I would assume a helicopter parent is the one hovering over the screen time?
You would think so. But the theory here is about the escape valve.
The escape valve.
Think about it. If your life is micromanaged, your major, your schedule, your diet, where is the one place you can go to feel a sense of agency?
Video games.
Bingo. In a game, you are the hero. You make the decisions. It's a direct cause and effect that you control.
So they retreat into the digital world to regain the autonomy they're being starved of in the real world.
That's the theory. It's a compensatory mechanism. They are hungry for control, and the game feeds them.
That is a huge aha moment. Now, before we move on, I noticed there was a cultural twist in the Hewa study as well.
There is, and it's a crucial nuance. We have to be careful not to view everything through a strictly Western lens.
Right, because parenting isn't one size fits all across the globe.
Exactly. The study found that in Western individualistic cultures like the U.S., overparenting pretty clearly hurts life satisfaction because here, the goal is independence.
You feel like you're failing the cultural script?
However, in non-Western or collectivist contexts, and the data looked heavily at parts of East Asia, overparenting is sometimes associated with higher life satisfaction.
Really? So the exact same behavior yields a different psychological result?
Yes, because in those cultural contexts, that high level of involvement isn't necessarily interpreted as intrusion, it's interpreted as love and support.
So if my parents are involved, it means they care.
Exactly. If they weren't involved, that would feel like neglect.
That is fascinating. So the damage isn't just in the action itself, it's in how the child interprets the action based on their cultural programming.
Context is king.
Okay, so that's the helicopter. Hovering, helpful, but potentially handicapping. I want to pivot to our second character, the tiger mom.
Ah, yes, the tiger.
This all really exploded with Amy Chua's memoir back in 2011, Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. It was like a grenade went off in the parenting world.
It really was. It sparked a massive debate.
The stereotype is pretty clear. High demands, harsh discipline, no playdates, hours of piano practice, aiming for the Ivy League or bust.
It became the archetype of high-achievement parenting. And the unspoken assumption was, it might be harsh, but it works.
Right. We assume it produces prodigies, but does it?
Well, that's where the science comes in. You've been looking at the longitudinal work of Su Yeong Kim on Chinese-American families. And first, just explain why longitudinal matters here.
Right. Why is that better?
A lot of studies just take a snapshot. But Su Yeong Kim's study is the gold standard because they followed these families over 8 years.
They saw the movie, not just the screenshot.
Exactly. They saw cause and effect over nearly a decade. And this is where we get our biggest myth-busting fact of the deep dive.
Hit us with it.
Tiger parenting does not produce the best GPAs.
Whoa! I feel like we need a sound effect for that. Say that again.
The data showed that the Tiger parenting profile did not result in the highest academic performance. In fact, in the study, the profile that won, the one of the highest test scores and best GPAs, was the supportive parenting profile.
So the relentless pressure, the no bathroom breaks, the intensity, It actually underperformed compared to just being supportive.
It did. And here's the reality check that makes it even worse. Tiger parenting was linked to lower academic performance than supportive parenting, but it also came with much higher depressive symptoms and a greater sense of alienation.
That is a lose-lose. You're paying a massive emotional cost, and you aren't even getting the grades to show for it.
It really challenges the core value proposition of that style. But I think we need to define Tiger properly here because the research had a specific definition.
Right, it's not just being strict.
No, it's a hybrid profile. And this is what makes it so confusing for the child. These parents score high on negatives, things like shaming, harshness.
Okay.
But, and this is key, they also score high on positives,
Yeah.
like warmth and monitoring.
Wait, high warmth. I thought the tiger stereotype was cold.
That's the stereotype. But in practice, these parents are deeply involved and often very caring. It's a mix of, I love you, and you are a disgrace if you get a B.
That sounds incredibly destabilizing.
It's emotional whiplash. And to understand why this happens, we have to look at a Chinese concept called guan.
Guan. Spell that for us.
G-U-A-N. It's a word that literally means to govern, but it also means to love.
To govern is to love. That is a very different equation than what we usually have in the West.
Completely. In that cultural framework, strict training, monitoring, and even scolding are viewed as expressions of care. The logic is, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't waste my energy pushing you this hard.
Okay, I can see the internal logic there, but how does that translate when you're raising a kid in the U.S.?
That's the friction point. Su Yeong Kim's research highlights the acculturation gap.
Acculturation meaning adapting to the new culture.
Yes. As these children grow up in America, they're exposed to Western norms, where love is expressed through praise, hugging, unconditional acceptance.
So they stop seeing the strictness as love.
Exactly. They interpret it through the Western lens. They see it as rejection, as hostility. The parent is broadcasting on one frequency, I'm doing this because I love you, and the kid is receiving on another, you're doing this because I'm not good enough.
And that mismatch creates the alienation found in the study.
Precisely. And I think it is really important to correct a stereotype here. Because of the media hype, people assume this is the standard style in Asian American families.
Right, it's become a caricature.
But the data shows that tiger parenting is not the most common style. The supportive style, high expectations but high warmth and democratic reasoning, is actually the most prevalent.
That's a relief to hear, honestly. So let's zoom out. We have the helicopter hovering, we have the tiger roaring. On the surface, they look different, but as I'm listening to you, I feel like there's a common thread here.
You're spotting the pattern. Whether it's the hovering helicopter or the pressuring tiger, the damage comes from the same place.
It's about control, isn't it?
It is. Both styles fundamentally thwart what psychologists call basic psychological needs. Specifically, there are three: autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Let's define those quickly. Autonomy is, I can make my own choices.
Right. Competence is, I am good at this.
And relatedness is, I am connected to others.
And both styles attack those needs. They fail to make the critical transition from managing the child to coaching the young adult.
The helicopter manages the environment, the tiger manages the behavior, but neither lets the young adult actually take the wheel.
And if you don't take the wheel, you don't learn how to drive. And that leads to what Stigrin and colleagues described as a coping crisis.
What does that look like in the real world, say, in a workplace?
It looks like fragility.
Hmm.
When things get tough, a bad performance review, a project fails, they distance themselves, they internalize the stress, they shut down.
Because they never built the callus.
Because they were never allowed to fail and recover in a safe environment. So a failure in adulthood feels catastrophic. They don't have the toolkit to handle it because mom or dad always carried it for them.
That is profound. It's like we're sending them out into the wilderness without a compass because we never let them hold it in the backyard.
That's a perfect analogy.
So let's try to bring this all together. If we had to distill this into the absolute essentials, what are the key takeaways?
I'd say three big ones. First, helicoptering backfires. The research is clear. It is linked to anxiety and depression because it kills self-efficacy.
It's helpfulness that actually hurts. Okay, takeaway 2.
The tiger myth is busted. Harsh, high-pressure parenting does not yield better grades than supportive parenting. It often leads to lower performance and comes at a very high emotional cost.
So you don't have to be cruel to be successful. And the third?
Supportive is best. The Goldilocks zone is the supportive profile. And this doesn't mean being permissive or having low standards.
Right, it's not do whatever you want.
No. It means high standards and monitoring, but paired with warmth, reasoning, and, crucially, autonomy.
So it's, I expect a lot from you, but I'm going to help you figure out how to get there rather than dragging you there.
Exactly. The big picture takeaway is the goal of parenting, according to the science, isn't to prevent failure or force success. The goal is to build the psychological muscles so the child can handle life independently.
You can't build muscle if someone else lifts the weights for you.
That's it.
That needs to be on a bumper sticker. Well, this has been an incredible look into the mechanics of how we raise humans. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Deep Dive Lab today. If you enjoyed unpacking this research with us, please hit that subscribe button.
Always more to learn.
Before we go, though, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. We've seen the data. We know scientifically that stepping back and offering support works better than hovering or pressuring. So here is the question. If we know it doesn't work, why do we find it so hard to let go of the controls?
It's the million-dollar question.
Is it really about the child's anxiety? Or is it actually about ours? Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.